Surprise! We're married, my sister texted, with a picture of her and my fiancé popping champagne. Don't be mad, sis. We just couldn't wait. I was on a 14-hour flight, about to close the $100 million deal that would change our lives. I didn't get mad. I didn't cry. I just used the in-flight Wi-Fi to forward the text to my lawyer with one word: execute. My sister didn't just marry my fiancé. She just made him unemployed and handed me 100% of our company. Before we go on, hit like, make sure to subscribe, and comment, what do you think she just executed? I'm Anna, and I built my company from absolutely nothing. When I say nothing, I mean I started writing code in my dorm room at 19 years old. I didn't have rich parents who could fund me. I didn't have connections in Silicon Valley. What I had was a laptop that was held together with duct tape, a scholarship that barely covered my tuition, and an idea that kept me up until 4 a.m. every single night. I was developing a software platform that would revolutionize how small businesses manage their inventory and logistics. It sounds boring when you say it like that, but the market for it was massive. Every mom and pop shop, every small restaurant, every boutique retailer needed what I was building. They just didn't know it yet. I spent 2 years in that dorm room. My roommate thought I was crazy. She would go out to parties and come back at 2 a.m. to find me still at my desk, my eyes bloodshot, surrounded by empty coffee cups and textbooks on database architecture. She would ask me why I was killing myself like this, when I could just get a normal job after graduation like everyone else. I told her that normal wasn't enough for me. I didn't come from a family with money. My parents were middle class at best. My dad was a manager at a hardware store. My mom was a part-time bookkeeper. They did their best, but there was never extra money for anything. I wore hand-me-downs until I was in high school. I worked 3 part-time jobs to afford my textbooks. I knew that if I wanted a different life, I had to build it myself. By the time I graduated, I had a working prototype. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. I started pitching it to anyone who would listen. I went to every small business expo, every networking event, every startup competition I could find. Most people didn't take me seriously. I was a 21-year-old woman with no business experience, trying to tell seasoned entrepreneurs how to run their operations. I got laughed out of more rooms than I can count, but I kept going. I refined the pitch, I fixed the bugs, I made the interface cleaner, and slowly, people started to listen. My first customer was a family-owned bakery in Queens. They paid me $500 for a 6-month subscription. It wasn't much, but it was proof that someone believed in what I was building. That $500 went right back into the business. I used it to rent server space and buy a better laptop. Within a year, I had 50 customers. Within 2 years, I had 500. The revenue was growing, but I was drowning. I was doing everything myself. The coding, the customer service, the billing, the marketing. I was working 18-hour days, 7 days a week. I knew I needed help, but I didn't have money to hire anyone. I was stuck. That's when I met Mark. He walked into a startup mixer I was attending in Manhattan. He was tall, good-looking, and he had this easy confidence that made people want to listen to him. He was working in sales for a mid-sized tech company, but he told me he was looking for something more exciting. He wanted to be part of something from the ground up. We started talking, and I told him about my company. His eyes lit up. He said he could see the potential. He said he could sell this to anyone. He asked if I needed a partner. I should have been more careful. I should have done more due diligence, but I was exhausted. And he seemed like the answer to all my problems. He had the skills I didn't have. He could talk to investors. He could close deals. He could be the face of the company while I stayed in the background and did what I did best, which was build the product. So I said yes. I brought him on as a partner. And because I was young and naive and maybe a little bit in love, I gave him 50% of the company. It seemed fair at the time. He was putting in just as much work as I was. Or at least that's what I told myself. He was out there every day, meeting with potential clients, pitching to investors, building relationships. The company started growing faster than I could have imagined. Within 6 months of Mark joining, we had closed a Series A funding round for $5 million. Within a year, we had 2,000 customers and 20 employees. Within 2 years, we were generating $30 million in annual revenue. We were the success story that everyone wanted to write about. The scrappy startup that made it big. Mark and I started dating about a year after he joined the company. It felt natural. We were spending every waking moment together anyway. He was charming and supportive, and he made me feel like I wasn't in this alone anymore. My friends warned me that it was a bad idea to mix business with romance, but I didn't listen. I thought we were different. I thought we were building something together that was bigger than either of us. He proposed to me on the night we closed our Series B funding round. $15 million. He got down on one knee in the conference room after everyone else had left, and he told me that I was the most brilliant person he had ever met. He said he wanted to spend the rest of his life building our empire with me. I said yes. That's when my family started getting involved. Or, I should say, that's when my family started getting more demanding. See, my sister Chloe had always been the golden child. She was 3 years younger than me. And from the moment she was born, my parents treated her like she was made of glass. She was the pretty one, the social one, the one who could do no wrong. I was the serious one, the boring one, the one who spent too much time with computers and not enough time making friends. My parents didn't understand what I did for a living. When I tried to explain my business to them, their eyes would glaze over. But they understood money. And once the money started rolling in, they suddenly became very interested in my life. Chloe had bounced from one thing to another her entire adult life. She tried to be an actress, then a model, then a lifestyle blogger, then an influencer. None of it ever worked out because she didn't want to put in the work. She wanted the fame and the money without the effort. She lived with my parents rent-free and spent her days taking selfies and going to brunch with her friends. My parents didn't just enable it, they encouraged it. They told her she was special and that she just needed to wait for her big break. Once I started making real money, the requests started. My mom would call me and say that Chloe needed help with her rent, even though she didn't pay rent. She needed a new car. She needed money for headshots. She needed a loan to start her jewelry business that would never actually launch. I said no most of the time, but I felt guilty. My parents made me feel like I was being selfish. They would say things like, family helps family. And you have so much. Why can't you share a little with your sister? They didn't see that I had worked for everything I had. They saw my success as luck, and they thought I should spread that luck around. The worst part was when they started asking me to give Chloe a job at my company, not just any job. They wanted me to create some high-level position for her with a 6-figure salary where she didn't actually have to do anything. They called it a marketing consultant role or a brand ambassador position. I told them no. I told them that my company was not a charity and that I had employees who actually worked hard and deserved their jobs. My mom cried. She said I had changed. She said success had made me cold and cruel. My dad didn't talk to me for 3 months. Chloe herself was even worse. She would make passive-aggressive comments every time I saw her. She would say things like, "Must be nice to have so much money," or "I wish I was as lucky as you." She never said congratulations. She never acknowledged the years of work I had put in. She just resented me. And I could see it in her eyes every time we were in the same room. She wanted what I had, but she didn't want to earn it. She wanted it handed to her. Mark knew all of this. He had been to family dinners, he had heard the comments, he had seen how my parents treated me compared to how they treated Chloe, and he always seemed understanding. He would tell me that my family didn't appreciate me and that I should focus on the people who actually supported me. He made me feel like he was on my side. I thought he understood me. I thought he saw me for who I really was, not just what I could provide. Then came the deal, the $100 million acquisition. It started 6 months before the flight to Zurich. We were approached by a major tech conglomerate that wanted to buy our company. They saw the potential in what we had built, and they wanted to integrate our software into their existing ecosystem. It was the kind of deal that most entrepreneurs only dream about. $100 million. $50 million for me, $50 million for Mark. It was generational wealth. It was the kind of money that would set us up for the rest of our lives. The negotiations were intense. They lasted months. There were legal teams, financial audits, technical reviews. Everything about our company was put under a microscope. I was the one who handled most of it because I was the one who actually understood how the software worked. Mark was involved in the early meetings, but as the deal progressed, it became clear that the acquiring company wanted to talk to me. I was the technical founder. I was the one who built the product. Mark's role became smaller and smaller. I could see it bothered him, but he never said anything directly. He would just make little comments about how I was always in meetings or how I was spending more time with the lawyers than with him. The final step of the deal was a 48-hour marathon session in Zurich. The acquiring company wanted both of us there. But at the last minute, they said they really only needed me. They needed me to walk their technical team through the architecture and answer their final questions. Mark would stay back and hold down the fort at the office. He seemed fine with it. He even said it made sense because I was the technical expert. He kissed me goodbye at the airport and told me he loved me. He said he would be waiting for me when I got back, and we would celebrate together. I was in the air for 14 hours. It was a direct flight from New York to Zurich, and I spent most of it reviewing documents and preparing for the meetings. I barely slept. I was running on adrenaline and caffeine. About 2 hours before we were supposed to land, I paid the ridiculous fee for in-flight Wi-Fi. I wanted to send a quick update to my legal team to let them know I had finished my final review of the technical specs and that everything looked good. I opened my laptop, connected to the Wi-Fi, and that's when the text came through. It was from Chloe. The preview on my phone screen showed a photo. I opened it, and my entire world stopped. It was a picture of Chloe and Mark on a beach. They were kissing. Chloe was wearing a white dress. Mark was in a linen suit. They were holding champagne glasses. Behind them was a sign that said, "Just married." The text below the photo said, "Surprise! We're married. We just couldn't wait." Don't be mad, sis. We'll celebrate with you when you get back. After all, we're all family now. Sit. We're on our honeymoon in the Maldives. I read it 3 times. I looked at the photo. I zoomed in on their faces. They looked happy. No, they looked smug. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment decision. This was planned. The timing was deliberate. They did this while I was in the air, while I was unreachable, while I was in the middle of closing the biggest deal of my life. They thought I was trapped. They thought that by the time I landed and saw the message, it would be too late. The deal would be closing. Mark would be getting his $50 million. And by marrying him, Chloe would have a legal claim to half of his half, $25 million. They thought they had just pulled off the heist of the century. But here's what they didn't know. Here's what they had forgotten in their rush to betray me. I'm not the kind of person who builds something without protecting it. When Mark and I first became partners, my lawyer insisted that we have an ironclad partnership agreement. I was young, but I wasn't stupid. The agreement had a clause in it that we called the bad actor clause. It stated that if either partner engaged in any act of gross personal or professional misconduct, fraud, or bad faith against the other partner, the partnership would immediately dissolve. The non-offending partner would have the right to buy out the offending partner's shares for $1. One single dollar. At the time, Mark barely read the agreement. He was so excited to be a partner, so eager to get started, that he just signed where his lawyer told him to sign. I remember his lawyer had raised an eyebrow at the clause and asked if it was really necessary. My lawyer had looked him dead in the eye and said, "If your client plans to act in good faith, he has nothing to worry about." Mark had laughed it off and signed. And now, sitting on that plane at 30,000 feet, that clause was about to ruin his life. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw my phone across the cabin. I felt something else entirely. It was clarity. Cold, sharp clarity. Everything suddenly made sense. The way Mark had been distant during the negotiations. The way he had seemed almost relieved that he didn't have to go to Zurich. The way Chloe had been texting me more than usual over the past few weeks, asking about the deal, asking when it would close, asking how much money we would be getting. They had planned this, they had coordinated it, and they had made the single biggest mistake of their lives. I opened my laptop, I forwarded the text message and the photo to my lawyer with a single word in the subject line: execute. Then I opened a second email. This one went to the lead counsel for the acquiring company. The subject line said, "Urgent. Deal on hold." The body of the email was short. "Grave personal emergency involving my business partner. I need to halt all proceedings indefinitely pending legal resolution. I will explain everything when I land. My sincerest apologies. Anna." Then I closed my laptop. I turned off the Wi-Fi. I ordered a glass of red wine from the flight attendant, and I sat back in my seat and smiled, because I knew exactly what was about to happen. While Mark and Chloe were sitting on a beach in the Maldives, sipping champagne and congratulating themselves on their brilliant plan, my lawyer was filing an emergency motion to dissolve our partnership and seize Mark's shares. The acquiring company was being notified that one of the key partners had been removed for cause, which meant the deal as currently structured was void, and Mark's entire financial future was evaporating in real time. I actually enjoyed the rest of that flight. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. I wasn't sad about losing Mark. I was angry, sure, but more than that, I was relieved. I realized that I had been carrying the weight of that relationship for years. I had been making excuses for him. I had been pretending that we were equal partners when the reality was that I had built everything and he had just shown up and taken credit. And now, he had shown me exactly who he really was. He wasn't my partner. He wasn't my fiancé. He was just another person who wanted to take from me without giving anything back. When the plane landed in Zurich, I turned my phone back on. It exploded. I had 63 missed calls. I had over 100 text messages. Most of them were from Mark. The first few were casual. "Hey babe, how's the flight?" Then they got more urgent. "Anna, call me as soon as you land." Then they got panicked. "What the hell is going on?" "My lawyer just called me. Call me now." Then they got angry. "You can't do this. This is insane. We need to talk." Then they got desperate. "Please, Anna, please, let's just talk about this." There were messages from Chloe too. Hers were different. They started out defensive. "Why are you doing this? You're overreacting." Then they got nasty. "You're just jealous because I'm happy, and you're a cold, miserable person." Then they got scared. "Mom and Dad are freaking out. You need to fix this." Then they got pitiful. "Please don't do this to us. I'm your sister. We're family." There were messages from my parents too. My mom was crying on a voicemail. Anna, what are you doing? You're destroying your sister's marriage. How could you be so cruel? My dad was angry. You need to call off your lawyers right now. This is family business. You don't sue family. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I called my lawyer. He answered on the first ring. Anna, I was waiting for your call. Everything is in motion. We filed the dissolution this morning. Mark's shares have been transferred to you for the agreed upon sum of $1. His access to all company accounts, email, and systems has been revoked. His corporate credit cards have been canceled. The acquiring company has been notified that the deal structure has changed. They want to meet with you as soon as possible to discuss next steps. I asked him how Mark had reacted. My lawyer actually laughed. He said, he didn't believe it at first. He thought it was a joke. Then, his lawyer explained the clause to him. He tried to argue that getting married isn't misconduct. I sent him the legal definition of bad faith and pointed out that the timing of his marriage, combined with the text message your sister sent, demonstrates clear intent to deceive and harm you financially. He has no case. It's airtight. I asked about Chloe. My lawyer said, she's not a party to the partnership agreement, so she has no standing. But I did take the liberty of sending her a courtesy email explaining that her new husband is now unemployed and has zero assets. I thought she should know. I thanked him and hung up. Then I called the acquiring company. I explained the situation in vague terms. I told them that my former partner had engaged in conduct that violated our partnership agreement and that he was no longer with the company. I told them that I now owned 100% of the company and that I was fully prepared to move forward with the acquisition under revised terms. They were quiet for a moment. Then the lead counsel asked, does this affect the intellectual property or the operational capacity of the company? I told him it didn't. Everything that made the company valuable was still intact because I was the one who built it. He said, then we'll send you revised terms by end of day. We still want this deal. I didn't go to the meetings in Zurich. I canceled them and booked a flight back to New York. I needed to deal with this in person. The flight back was quieter. I had blocked all of their numbers, so my phone wasn't blowing up anymore. I spent the time thinking about what I was going to say when I saw them. I wasn't planning some big, dramatic speech. I wasn't going to yell or cry or beg them to explain why they did it. I already knew why. Greed, jealousy, entitlement. They thought they were smarter than me. They thought they could take what I built and leave me with nothing. They were wrong. When I landed in New York, I went straight to my apartment. I knew they would be there. I'd gotten a message from my building's concierge that my parents, my sister, and Mark were all in the lobby demanding to see me. I told the concierge to let them come up. I wanted to get this over with. When I opened the door, they all rushed in at once. My mother was crying. My father was red-faced and angry. Chloe looked like she hadn't slept. Her eyes were puffy and her makeup was smudged. Mark looked defeated. He couldn't even look me in the eye. My mother started first. Anna, you have to stop this. You're tearing this family apart. Mark and Chloe made a mistake, but they love each other. You can't punish them like this. I didn't say anything. I just stood there and let her talk. She kept going. You have so much money. You don't need all of it. Why can't you just let them have some? Why do you have to be so cruel? My father jumped in. This is ridiculous. You're going to destroy your sister's life over a business deal? She's your blood. He's just some guy. You can find another fiancé. You can't replace your sister. I still didn't say anything. I just looked at them, really looked at them, and I realized that as a person, I was just a resource, a piggy bank, someone who existed to make their lives easier. Chloe finally spoke. Her voice was shaking. Anna, please. I love him. We didn't mean to hurt you. It just happened. You're always so busy with work. You never had time for him. He was lonely. I was there for him. We fell in love. You can't blame us for that. I almost laughed at that. The rewriting of history, the way she was trying to make it seem like I was the bad guy for working too much, like I was the one who had driven them together. Mark finally looked at me. Anna, I know you're angry. I know I messed up. But we can fix this. We can work something out. You don't have to take everything. We can still be partners. We can still make this deal happen together. And that's when I finally spoke. I looked at him and I said, "You're right." I was angry, but I'm not anymore. Now, I'm just done. I turned to Chloe. You texted me a picture of you and my fiancé on your wedding day while I was in the middle of the biggest deal of my life. You did it on purpose. You did it because you thought that by the time I landed, the deal would be done and there would be nothing I could do about it. You thought you had just secured $25 million for yourself by marrying him. I turned back to Mark. And you. You knew about the partnership agreement. You signed it. You knew that clause was in there. But you thought I would never use it. You thought I loved you too much. You thought I was too soft, too forgiving. You thought you could betray me and I would just accept it because that's what everyone in my life has always expected me to do. Just accept it and share what I built. My mother tried to interrupt. Anna, that's not fair. I held up my hand. I'm not done. You want to know what's not fair? What's not fair is that I spent 2 years building a company from nothing while living on ramen and 3 hours of sleep. What's not fair is that I gave him 50% of that company because I loved him and I trusted him. What's not fair is that my own sister thought it was okay to try to steal from me because she's always been told she deserves everything she wants without working for it. I looked at my parents. You've spent my entire life telling me to share with her, to give her opportunities, to hand her things that I earned, and I'm done. I'm done being the bad guy for wanting to keep what I built. I'm done feeling guilty for being successful. I'm done with all of you. My father's face was purple. You can't talk to us like this. We're your parents. I shook my head. You're the people who raised me. But you've never been on my side. You've never celebrated my success. You've only ever seen it as something that should benefit Chloe. So no, I don't owe you anything. Chloe was full on sobbing now. You're taking everything from us. How are we supposed to live? I looked at her, really looked at her, and I felt nothing. No pity, no guilt, just emptiness. You married him for his money. You thought you were marrying a millionaire. But the only reason he had money in the first place was because of me. I built the company. I wrote every line of code. I closed every major deal. He was just the face. And now, that face doesn't come with a paycheck anymore. Mark finally found his voice. This is insane. You can't just take everything. I worked for that company too. I brought in clients. I closed deals. I deserve something. I actually smiled at that. You're right. You do deserve something. You deserve exactly what you're getting, which is nothing. You violated our partnership agreement. You committed fraud against me. You tried to steal from me. And now you're facing the consequences. I walked to the door and opened it. I want all of you to leave. I don't want to see you again. I don't want calls. I don't want texts. I don't want apologies. I want you out of my life. My mother started to say something, but I cut her off. If you don't leave right now, I will call security and have you removed. They left. My mother was still crying. My father was muttering about how I was making a mistake. Chloe was clinging to Mark, and he was trying to comfort her, even though he looked like he was about to fall apart himself. I closed the door behind them and locked it. And then I sat down on my couch and I breathed. For the first time in years, I felt light. The next few weeks were a blur. The acquiring company did move forward with the deal, but under revised terms. Because Mark was no longer part of the company, they adjusted the offer. Instead of $100 million, they offered $75 million. It was a significant reduction, but it was still more money than most people see in a lifetime. And it was all mine. Every single penny. I signed the papers 4 weeks after the Zurich trip. The money hit my account the next day, $75 million. I found out through a mutual friend that Mark and Chloe's situation had gotten bad. Really bad. They had maxed out credit cards to pay for the wedding and the honeymoon in the Maldives. They thought they were going to pay it all off with the acquisition money. When that money disappeared, they were left with over $200,000 in debt. Mark couldn't get a job. His reputation in the industry was destroyed. Word had gotten out about what he did, and no one wanted to hire him. He tried to start his own consulting business, but no one would work with him. Chloe had to move back in with my parents. Mark went with her. They were living in my childhood bedroom, the same bedroom where I used to stay up all night learning to code. My parents were supporting them financially, which meant they were draining their retirement savings. My mom tried to reach out to me a few times. She sent emails begging me to help them. She said they were struggling. She said Chloe was depressed. She said I was the only one who could fix this. I deleted every email without responding. I also found out that Mark tried to sue me. He claimed that the bad actor clause was unenforceable. He claimed that I had coerced him into signing the partnership agreement. His lawyer laughed him out of the office when he saw the paperwork. Everything was ironclad. Mark had his own lawyer present when he signed. He had time to review it. There was no coercion. The case was dismissed before it even went to court. He had to pay my legal fees on top of everything else. 6 months after everything happened, I restructured my company. I brought in new leadership. I hired people who actually cared about the work, not just the paycheck. The company continued to grow. We were preparing to go public. The IPO was projected to value the company at over $300 million. I was going to be wealthy beyond anything I had ever imagined. And I did it all on my own. I ran into a former colleague at a coffee shop one day. She asked me if I had heard about Mark and Chloe. I said I hadn't. She told me that they had separated. Chloe had left him. She had realized that he wasn't the meal ticket she thought he was, and she moved on. She was trying to reboot her influencer career by posting about her journey through hardship. It wasn't going well. Mark was still living with my parents. He was working part-time at a call center. She asked me if I felt bad about it. I thought about it for a moment. And then I said, no, I didn't feel bad. Not even a little bit. Because here's the thing. They made their choice. They chose to betray me. They chose to try to steal from me. They chose to do it in the most cruel, calculated way possible. They thought they were smarter than me. They thought they could take everything I had worked for and leave me with nothing. But they forgot something important. They forgot that I was the one who built it all. I was the architect. I was the foundation. Mark was just the paint on the walls. Chloe was nothing. She was a parasite who thought she could latch onto someone else's success and claim it as her own. They didn't just betray me. They fundamentally misunderstood me. They thought I was weak. They thought I would just accept their betrayal and move on because that's what I had always done with my family. I had always been the one to back down, to compromise, to make peace. But there's a difference between being kind and being a doormat. And they learned that difference the hard way. People ask me sometimes if I regret what I did. They ask me if I think I went too far. They say things like, but she's your sister, or, but you loved him. And I tell them the same thing every time. I didn't take anything from them. They tried to take from me. I just protected what was mine. The bad actor clause was always there. It was always part of our agreement. Mark knew it existed. He just never thought I would use it. That was his mistake, not mine. I also don't regret cutting off my parents. They made it very clear where their loyalties were. They chose Chloe over me, just like they always had. They expected me to fix the mess she created just like they always had. They saw me as a resource, not a person, and I'm better off without them. The truth is, I'm happier now than I've ever been. I have a company that I'm proud of. I have employees who respect me. I have friends who actually support me. I don't have people in my life who only want me around for what I can give them. I don't have a fiancé who sees me as a stepping stone to wealth. I don't have a sister who resents me for being successful. I don't have parents who make me feel guilty for not sacrificing everything for someone who never appreciated it. I wake up every morning and I go to work and I build things. I create jobs, I solve problems, I make a difference. And at the end of the day, I go home to my apartment that I bought with my own money, and I sleep soundly knowing that everything I have is mine because I earned it. My sister and my fiancé tried to steal $50 million from me. They thought they were pulling off the perfect heist. They thought they had timed it perfectly. They thought I would be helpless, but they underestimated me. They forgot that I was the one who built the empire they were trying to steal. They forgot that I was smart enough to protect myself. They forgot that I was strong enough to walk away from people who didn't value me. So I left them with nothing but each other. And honestly, that feels like justice to me. They wanted to be together so badly that they destroyed everything else. Now, they have exactly what they wanted. They have each other. They just don't have anything else. No money, no future, no respect. Just each other and the consequences of their choices. I've moved on. I'm building new things. I'm creating new opportunities. I'm living my life on my own terms. And I'm not looking back because the people who tried to destroy me aren't worth another second of my time. They made their bed. Now they can lie in it together in my parents' basement, drowning in debt, while I'm up here building my empire. My sister and my fiancé tried to steal $50 million from me. I left them with nothing but each other. Did I go too far, or did they get exactly what they deserved? Let me know in the comments.